Hello everybody, welcome to my free on-demand webinar of how to train for an Ironman 70.3 in a year. Now this can be an Ironman 70.3 branded race, it can be a middle distance, it can be a half distance, any triathlon of that same distance. If you were looking for the full distance Ironman, so that's a 2.4 mile swim, that is the 112-mile bike and a 26-mile run. You'll see a link down at the bottom on how to train for a full Ironman in a year. Now, I recommend most people start off training for a 70.3 and then moving up to an Ironman. But I just thought I'd put that link there in case you got lost, in case you got confused. Now, we are looking to take on the challenge of an Ironman 70.3 in a year from scratch, pretty much, with this webinar. Someone who can do a bit of swimming, a bit of cycling, and a bit of running. And they think, I fancy taking on this challenge, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what equipment they want. They don't know what the training is going to look like. But they've seen friends do it. They've seen family, colleagues do it. They've seen it on social media and think, that's what I want to do. And therefore, they then go, right, you know what? Let's go down this route. Let's start training and let's take on this big challenge. So this webinar is to help you get started with your training. This webinar could be about 12 hours if I wanted to cover everything that I wanted to tell you about Ironman 70.3. But guess what? I haven't got that time. You haven't got that time. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to be glancing over some topics from a relatively sort of high level perspective. But if you want some deep dives on different sections, check out my podcast, the Age Group Triathlon Podcast. Have a search for that on Spotify, have a search for that on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and you get a lot more detailed information from there on. So a little bit about me before we get started. I've been a professional triathlon coach since 2016, so it's 10 years now. Over 50 triathlon finishes and sprint, all the way up to Ironman distance. British Triathlon High Performing Coach, which is the highest level you can get to. Ironman Certified Coach, and I've got separate qualifications in strength and conditioning. Because I always wanted as a coach, if people come to me and ask me questions, I wanted to be able to give them an answer. And if I can't find the answer, I go out and I research it myself. I didn't want to just tell them, well, you should probably eat some flapjack on the bike or maybe do some squats for stronger legs. I wanted to be able to give people some really good information covering all aspects of performance. Because as we're going to find out in this webinar, there is more to triathlon than swimming, cycling, and running. So what is an Ironman 70.3? Just in case you have ended up completely lost, this is a 1.9 kilometer, 1.2 mile swim in open water. Always in open water. So that could be the sea, it could be down a river, a canal, a lake, but it will be outside. There won't be a side to hold on to. It will be deep. It will probably be quite cold. Okay, this is the the biggest part of a triathlon that puts people off. But you know what? Together, we can crack that. 90-kilometer bike. It's on rolling terrain. There are very few courses that are pan flat, and those that are completely pan flat do tend to be quite windy. So it's going to be a rolling terrain, and it is going to be in all weathers. Okay, if it's rainy, you're riding in the rain. If it's windy, you're riding in the wind. Okay, if it's baking hot, you're going to have to find a way to work with that. Okay, so this isn't your standard Sunday afternoon bike ride in the summer holidays, taking the kids out, enjoying the scenery, stopping to take photos. This is 90 kilometers non-stop pedaling, pretty much, eating on the bike. This is serious cycling. And then we have a 21.1 kilometer, that's 13-mile run. And all of this is done back to back with no breaks, no rest. You have your transition where you change from one sport to the other, but this is on the clock. Okay, the transition in itself is an art. People wanted to get through and change from the swim to the bike and the bike to the run as fast and efficient as possible. So before we get stuck in, here are some basic assumptions that I'm making about you at this point. So you have at least 8 hours a week to train. A lot of weeks, there'll probably be less volume than that for reasons we'll get onto later. Uh, at least 8 hours. Some weeks might be a little bit more than that. It depends on your approach to it. But 8 hours at least is probably around about the minimum for sort of, especially once we get closer to the race. You have a base level of athleticism. So if you get out of breath walking up the stairs, if you can't bend over to pick up objects, then this is going to be a bit of an issue. It might take you a little bit longer. But if you can swim one length of the pool, run for a minute, and cycle for 30 minutes, I think you've got what it takes to be able to complete an Ironman 70.3 in a year. Probably even less, if I'm being honest. And I'm also assuming that you're injury free. Now, if you have a issue with a sort of an Achilles tendon, if you've tried running and you suffer with shin splints, I mean, some people might be watching this and they come from real running background. We'll get onto that in a bit. But if you have picked up a running injury, if you have some sort of issue that you're struggling with, then starting a journey such as an Ironman 70.3, you might want to hold off on that a little bit. If you are an injured runner who wants to have a bash at triathlon, then taking on shorter durations is going to be the way to do that. Because if we're training for a sprint triathlon with a 5K run and we're already an experienced runner, we can probably get away focusing just on the swim and on the bike and waiting for the injury to recover and doing the 5K on race day. If we are trying to put together a long day, finish with a half marathon, then we can't really afford to be going in there, suffering with plantar fasciitis, suffering with some kind of hip issue. If that's going to stop us from running, it's going to have a real impact on our training. So let's look at the equipment, okay? This is questions that a lot of people have. What kit do I need? Well, you're going to need some goggles. Now, you can swim without goggles, but you'll be a lot faster with goggles. You can put your face in the water that way. You don't need to worry about water getting into your eyes. And yes, you can swim in the water with your eyes open without goggles, but we're going to be swimming in open water. We are going to want to be swimming with goggles, even if you can do it naturally. If we're going to be competing, if we're going to be training, we're going to want to be much more aware of what's going on around us. And when you get the goggles, I recommend you get some nice wide goggles that have a nice, good, solid fit on them. That are really held on with some nice pressure, as opposed to the goggles that you can get, which are more socket goggles, which are goggles that as you're swimming with them, then they sit inside of your eyes there. Sit inside the socket as opposed to over the socket, which is what open water goggles tend to do. So that would be my recommendation would be that you go for these open water goggles. They stay on better if you get not to give you a wider peripheral vision. They're a little bit more expensive, but they will last you a lot longer. A wetsuit is going to almost be an absolute must-have. There are some races where they are reliably non-wetsuit, around sort of 15-20% of Ironman 70.3 races, such as 70.3 Hawaii. They will always be wetsuits banned. If the water temperature is over 24 degrees, wetsuits will be banned. And in that situation, you won't need a wetsuit on race day, but you may well need a wetsuit to be able to train in. So unless you're training somewhere that's really warm year round, you're probably going to need a wetsuit, if only to get training in the open water. Because if you are, say, training for um, a race that's in the Mediterranean in summer, or in Florida, where it's not going to be wetsuits, you may want to actually get into the water earlier to get that practice in with wetsuit swimming. Because if you're going to have to wait until the water warms up before you get your training done, that is going to impact your ability to prepare for the race. And a swimming costume as well. Now, for blokes, I recommend jammers. I mean, you can wear budgie smugglers if you want, but most male swimmers, they'll wear jammers which run down from the waist down to midway down their thigh, and they are nice and tight fitting. Again, not showing off too much, but they're not baggy. They're not billowing in the water as you swim, because that creates a lot of drag and it will really slow you down. For the ladies, you can get a one-piece suit, you can get a two-piece suit. There's not much difference. It's whatever you're comfortable in, really. But most will go for that one-piece suit when they're training. A swimming hat, you'll want to get used to swimming with a hat, because you're going to be racing with one on race day. You'll be given a cap, and they are essential when you're training in open water to allow the lifeguards to spot you as well. The wetsuits, not the wetsuits, the swimming hats, they are designed not to keep your hair dry. That's never going to happen. They're designed to streamline. Okay, so if you look at this image here that we have of this swimmer, she's wearing this nice tight-fitting one-piece suit that allows the water to flow around her nicely, and that cap is keeping her hair well contained within that swim hat, so that it's not flowing around in the water around her. Okay, it will make her a lot faster. And you're going to need a pool to swim in as well. Now, ideally, this would be 25 meters because it makes the maths really easy. That's what most swim workouts are going to be set in. But if you can find something that is longer or shorter, that's not the end of the world. 20 meters is probably the shortest that I would go, to be honest. Anything much less than 25 meters, and you can spend more time pushing off the wall and gliding than you are actually swimming. So for the bike, what we're going to need? Well, we're going to need the bike itself. I recommend a road bike like the one this chap in this photo is riding. It's got some nice dropped handlebars there and that allow him to get into that lower position. It is very light. It is got nice skinny tires. It's going to roll really well on the road. These are designed for riding out on the road as opposed to a bike that can be ridden on road and off road. The issue with a bike that can be ridden on road and off road is it's not very good at on road riding because it's heavy, because it's got sort of thicker, lumpier tires which create more resistance as you pedal. But it's also not very good off road because it can't give you the same level of grip that a properly off road bike can give. So I do recommend you go for a proper road bike. You can get one second hand if money is an issue. A helmet is also what you're going to need to be looking out for. You will need one for race day. It makes you just, it really helps protect your head if you're riding with a helmet. I've had a couple of really nasty crashes. I was very grateful I was wearing my helmet for. I'm not going to go as far as saying it saved my life because you never know what actually happened, what actually could happen or what would have happened otherwise. But it got really smashed up to pieces. I'm glad that it was the helmet that took that blow and not my head. Shoes and pedals. Now, you can go for flat pedals and just ride trainers, but most people who are taking on a triathlon will use sort of cycling shoes. So you see the ones this guy's wearing in this picture. He has got a nice a nice solid pair of cycling shoes. So they have a very hard sole on the bottom. So it's not there isn't sort of rubber sole. It is carbon fiber, or it will be some kind of composite. And that is designed to give you improved power efficiency. And these shoes also lock into the pedals, and you slot your cleat in, clicks into the pedals, and you can then twist your leg to get out of the pedals. Now the benefit of this is that you can accelerate hard if you are trying to sort of get up a hill or something like that, or just pull away from some lights or from a giveaway line, you can accelerate hard without the risk of your foot slipping off of the pedal and the pedal then hitting you in the shin. Okay, that's pretty priceless if you ask me. Again, they're not essential. You can just wear flat pedals and trainers should you wish. And an indoor trainer, if you're going to be training for a year, you're going to need an indoor trainer. We're going to get onto that later. But that really is going to make your life a lot easier. It allows you to ride in all weathers in a structured fashion. We're also going to need various tools, lubricants, cleaning products for our bike. So we're going to need a multi-tool to take with us out on the road so we can tighten any bolts, things that come loose. We're going to need to sort of clean and lubricate our chain. We're going to need to look after the bike frame itself. There are all these jobs that we need to do. And some of them are jobs for the bike shop. Okay, if it comes to, wanting to refresh the bearings in your wheels, yeah, send that to the bike shop. But if it's a really simple job, such as the headset's just got a little bit loose, okay, these are the kind of jobs that we should be able to do ourselves just with some tools because they're only going to take 20 seconds. Onto the run, less equipment involved here, less cost involved here. Running shoes, again, they're not cheap in this day and age. But you do need to get yourself a proper pair of running shoes. It will go a long way to reducing the risk of injury. Go to a bike shop, not a bike shop, a running shop, get a gait analysis. Don't just buy them off the internet. Don't just buy the ones that your mate has because they will run differently to you. But get yourself, find out whether you need some neutral shoes, some stability shoes, some support shoes. There are lots of different shoes out there, lots of different types. Find the right shoe for you. And unfortunately, there is an element of trial and error here, I'm afraid. You may need to try lots of different pairs of shoes before you find one that really works for you. That's just the way of things. GPS watch. So this it can be used for cycling, for swimming as well, but it really comes into its own on the run when you can see your pace and your heart rate as you're running along. It's not essential. You can just go out and run without any technology. But if you're trying to actually train for an event rather than just go out and run for health and fitness and weight loss, then it really will help for us to be able to see how fast it is that we're running, what our heart rate is, all these different metrics. A hat or a visor, especially in warm weather. I mean, even in the rain, it's nice to keep the raindrops off my head. But when you're in a sort of like this chap here, racing in the heat, having a visor to keep the sun out of your eyes. A lot of triathlons are held in the summer, will go a long way to helping you sort of stay cool and comfortable. And clothing for all conditions. When we are cycling, we can afford to hide away on the turbo trainer should we wish in the colder months. If we are taking on a race that is going to be sort of in the spring, in the summer, and we're training through the winter, we're going to need to run through the winter. So we're going to need to get ourselves a running jacket. We need to get ourselves some running tights. Yep, suck it up, blokes. You probably need to get a pair of running tights. You're going to need to have sort of a long sleeve running top as well. All of these different accessories to help you get through the winter. I mean, you could use the treadmill if you wanted to, but it doesn't really sort of tick the box for many runners. Other training essentials. So, what else do we need to be race day ready? A tri suit, a race suit. You can compete in just sort of swimming trunks under your wetsuit, do a full change in a changing tent, change into the bike kit, and do the same for the run. But most athletes at 70.3, they'll wear this triathlon suit they'll wear for all three disciplines. It'll be under their wetsuit in the swim, and that will be what they're wearing over the bike and the run, as you can see this chap wearing in this photo. A race belt, this is a belt to hold your number. Now, the regulations do vary in different countries, but in the UK at least, you need to have your race number behind you on the bike and on the front on the run. So you put this belt on that you attach your race number to. It's you swing it round so it's pointing behind you on the bike, and then you pull it round so it's the numbers on front of you when you're running. It saves you having to mess around with safety pins in transition to move your number from your front to the back of your jersey and vice versa. Elastic laces, not an absolute essential, but it will save time in transition if you're not sat there trying to do bows with what could be cold, wet hands. Sports nutrition, so we're going to need something to eat to top up our energy supplies. This could be branded sports nutrition specific products, or it could just be food that you brought with you. It really is up to you, and we'll touch on that a bit later. And hydration systems, so bottles, bladders for the bike. We're going to need to be carrying our water and our food with us as well, and we're going to need different systems to be able to cart those around. So let's look at the 70.3 swim in detail. So it's 1900 meters in open water. There's not going to be a black line to follow. Can't touch the sides. You are going to be out there swimming in a lake, surrounded, or the sea, most likely, surrounded by hundreds of other athletes, sometimes thousands. So it's non-stop, minimal breaks. You can hold on to a kayak if you need to take a break, if you need to take a breather. And some swims are 2 laps, and you actually do a little short run on dry land between laps. So that could be a chance for you to catch your breath before you start your second lap. But broadly speaking, we aren't going to have floating platforms we can hold on to and have a chat and have a drink and have something to eat. We're going to be swimming in cold, dark water, no line to follow. So making sure that you're swimming in a straight line is important, and you need to use sighting, change your stroke to be able to look ahead as you take a stroke to check to see that you're swimming towards the next swim buoy. Can be quite difficult to get that right. Because if you end up swimming off course and doing all these bananas and weaving around, you could turn the 1900 meter swim into a 2200 meter swim, and then we're just swimming for longer than we need to be. You're going to be in close proximity to tons of other swimmers. Now, you can, if you're nervous, swim out to the side to avoid the bump and grind. But if you are, especially if you're looking to do well at your event, you're going to need to get comfortable swimming in close proximity to other people and practicing this in training. You can swim any stroke you want. So it can, with the exception of backstroke, really is banned. But if you want to swim breaststroke, that's fine. If you want to swim heads up breaststroke, that's fine. If you want to swim butterfly, sure, you're a sucker for punishment. Go for it. But the majority of people, they will swim front crawl or freestyle. Especially if you're training for a year out, you've got no excuse not to learn. Okay, I know it can be scary. I know it can be intimidating. If you have only got a few months to go into your race day, okay, let's lock in on breaststroke. Let's get ourselves used to swimming breaststroke, because we're not going to be able to learn front crawl in that time, or freestyle as it's known. But we really should be looking, if we have 6 months or more to go, try to learn freestyle. It's going to be so much faster, and you can always fall back on breaststroke on race day if you need to. Most races will allow wetsuits, which provide you with warmth and buoyancy. So it's impossible to drown in a wetsuit. If you're scared of water, don't worry about it too much. If you've got a wetsuit on, I mean, I've tried to swim under the water to pick something up from the bottom of the lake before, just the shallow bit of the lake. You can't, it's physically impossible. The neoprene, the wetsuit just lifts you straight back up to the surface. You are safe in a wetsuit. How do we prepare for this swim? Well, as I've already touched on, freestyle is highly recommended a year round. We're going to be doing distance sets, we're going to be doing technique drills, we're going to be doing speed work. We're not just swimming endless lengths, okay, we are going to mix things up. We need to focus on different areas of our technique, our breathing, stroke rate, timing, our kick, our head position. We need to get all of these down. And that can be really quite confusing, that can be really quite intimidating. Like, how do I go about all of this? Four phases of our stroke that we need to look at. So we've got our hand entry, we have our catch, we have our pull, and our recovery. Our hand entry is how our hand enters the water. A lot of swimmers, new swimmers, have got a tendency of really walloping the water really hard because that feels good to really smash the hand into the water, but it doesn't actually move us any further through the water, it just creates a big old splash. Instead, fingertips first, followed by a wrist, followed by our elbow, reach forward. That's our hand entry, and our hand should be entering close to full extension. We don't want it entering close to our head because then our hand is working against the water through all of that time. Leave it really quite late, but if you leave it too late, you can end up with a wrist first hand entry because you're reaching super far forwards. So it enters just close of full extension, and then you start pulling back. We have our catch, so we go from this full extension, bend our elbow, keep it high, and engage the water here, using our forearm as a big paddle. We're catching the water, which only takes a fraction of a second before we start our pull, and we actually push ourselves through the water. And this is what moves you through the water, ladies and gentlemen. This here, boom, I'm pushing water behind me. That's what moves you forward. If you're not moving in the water, that's the reason. When we teach children to swim, we teach them to kick first. So we start off with that kicking action because it is easy for them to comprehend. The arms can be quite complex. And then parents can see their children kicking through the water with their arms spinning and they go, my child can swim, I'm going to pull them out of swimming lessons. It happens 80% of the time. And as a result, lots of adults don't know how to use their arms and they rely on their kick too much for propulsion. But a good 80-90% of our propulsion should come from our arms. The legs, they're there to help keep our body flat on the water. If our legs aren't kicking, our legs are going to sink in the water. We want a gentle kick with our legs just to help make sure that our legs are staying on top of the water. And that's it, really. And we also have our arm recovery where we sweep out and we go around to start the next stroke. You can go for a high elbow recovery where our elbow really recovers over us, or you can swing your arm over the top of the water. The issue with that swinging recovery is that you can swing too far and your hand can actually come close to entering in front of your head instead of in front of your shoulder. We need to have a good balance of technique and of fitness. Okay, so we can't afford to focus purely on technique because we need to swim 1900 meters. Okay, we won't actually go that fast if we just focus on technique. We need to include those fitness sets. But if we go too much on the fitness and we don't focus on our technique, we're going to ingrain bad technique. And that's not going to help us. Okay, so this is really, really critical that you focus on all areas of this stroke and, all areas of your swimming. So the 70.3 bike, this is the meat and potatoes of the event. The average finish time on the 70.3 bike is about 3 hours. Some people will be closer to like 2 hour 40. Some might be closer to 4 hours. But if you look at the absolute bang average duration of a flattish 70.3 bike, you're looking at about 3 hours. So 90 kilometers, some courses are much hillier than others, very few are pan flat. There's minimal mechanical support out there. If you get a flat tire, you need to fix that yourself. Nobody's going to come along and help you fix your puncture. There will be somebody who will be a roaming mechanic who'll be out there on the course in a van. But if they come across and they come across you and they go, what's the issue? And you go, oh, I've got a puncture. They'll chuck you an inner tube maybe, but they're going to drive off because they need to save people who have ended up with bolts that have sheared, derailleurs that have snapped off, who've lost the ability to change gears at all because their gear cables have snapped. That's what the mechanic is really there for. Fixing a puncture is a pretty basic job and is one that you need to learn. That's everyone needs to learn how to fix a puncture. Now, if you're running tubeless and you don't actually have an inner tube, this is less of an issue. But in that case, you need to learn how to plug a tire. You need to be able to re-inflate that tire. As I said, it's gonna be over 3 hours in the saddle, so we need to build up our resilience to to being on the bike, to being able to sit in the saddle for that long. Speaking of saddles, please don't go for a really big, thick, comfortable, cushy saddle. That isn't going to be comfortable. In the same way that if you go to a pub and you sit there in one of those really big armchairs that you sort of sink into, it can feel nice for the first like 10, 15 minutes, but then you start shifting around because of sort of the pressure that is being created there. Whereas if you were to go to the bar and perch on the end of a bar stool, you can sit there all night. It's the same deal with saddles. That's why everyone, including the chap in this photo, who's really realistically going to be racing a triathlon, will have a hard saddle, but they'll have a cushioned shorts or cushioned tri-suit. Okay, because that puts much less pressure on your lower section down there. Your aerodynamics and your equipment choice are paramount when we're taking on the 70.3. So that is making sure that we are producing minimal resistance to the wind. So we're not offering up this big sort of parachute. You see people who can ride along and they got a jersey that's unzipped and is flapping in the wind. It's like a big parachute that's slowing you right down. We want to be narrow. We want to have the air flowing around us. And that's one of the reasons that you'll see a lot of athletes will have sort of skin tight clothing because they want the air to flow around them as much as possible. There is a large vehicle that's just arrived outside. I think it might be collecting the rubbish. Hopefully, this doesn't interrupt too much. In fact, you know what? I'm going to press pause on this recording until this goes past. Race day nutrition, absolutely massive, huge subject. It is a non-negotiable. You hear about runners talk about hitting the wall in the marathon. A lot of the time, not all the time, a lot of the time. This is because they don't eat enough or they don't eat anything during their race and their body simply runs out of fuel. It's like trying to run a car without any fuel or any charge. Just not going to work. So if we're going to be out there for 8.5 hours, which is the cutoff, that's the maximum time you can take in your race, you need a lot of calories. You need to fuel your body for this effort. Carbs are king due to their ease of transportation, ease of digestion, low cost. Anybody who tells you that carbs are the enemy, ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about. They may sound like they do, but they don't. Okay, carbs in themselves, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. If you eat large quantities of very simple carbs and you neglect other food groups, yes, that's a problem. But as part of a balanced diet, no problem at all. And as endurance athletes, they are essential. So, most race day fuel that you'll get, gels, bars, drinks, chews, will be sugar based because this is a really simple carbohydrate and it allows our body can break down the sugar really, really quickly. And we can then fuel our effort and we get a real quick energy boost. If you were to say, oh, well, I'm following the carnivore diet, so I'm going to have some beef jerky to fuel my bike ride with. A, it'll probably be rancid by the time you take it out of your jersey pocket. B, it will take a long time to digest. You can imagine like riding up a steep hill with that all that gurgling around in your stomach. Doesn't sound very appealing to me. So there's lots of reasons that we use carbohydrate. Now there's definitely a place for real food. Not so much over the 70.3 as the Ironman, where a lot of people who are going to be out there for close to 17 hours, they will be wanting to really focus on getting lots of real food. But for us, as 70.3 athletes, if you think to yourself, oh, you know what, actually, I don't like any of this sports nutrition, I'm just going to get by on some pork pies and some Haribo, do it. If it works for you, test it in training. You need to practice your race day fueling in training. But if it works for you, that's fine. Don't worry about it being super optimal. Okay, what it is that the book tells you to do, or this coach told you to do. If it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Okay, if you get on well with that, if it settles your stomach, if it gives you all the energy you need, stick with that. Can't make that clear enough. Your day-to-day nutrition, we also need to make sure that we are, keeping into consideration because pre and post-workout fueling is critical. If you start a workout without enough energy to complete that workout, you're going to fail that workout. And it's going to make you feel really bad, okay? If it's just sort of an easy, like 45-minute bike, you don't need to put too much thought into it. If it is an hour 30 run with intervals in it, you really need to be well fueled for that workout. And post-workout fueling, we need protein to adapt to the training, not only for our muscles, we're not just trying to get bigger muscles, we're trying to rebuild our muscles after we've broken them down, make them stronger, not just bigger. And our heart, our lungs, everything there that we are trying to get that training adaptations from, we need protein for that. Okay, we're not bodybuilders, we don't need to be guzzling protein shakes all day, but we do need to have protein in our diet to facilitate our recovery. And we also need to have carbohydrate after our workout to replace the glycogen that we burned. We've got about 90 minutes worth of glycogen available to us, and we need to top up those stores after we finish our session, especially if we're then going to go on to work or we have a second session in the day. We need to eat more to facilitate that recovery. We need to make sure we get the right balance of macronutrients, so get the balance between protein, fat, and carbohydrate correct for the kind of training we're doing that day, as well as for the different goals that we have, where we are in our year. All of these things, they do matter. And micronutrients important to support our body, our immune system, the functionalities of our body. These are the kind of things that some people can afford to play a little bit fast and loose, but as athletes, we do need to make sure we're getting the vitamins and minerals that we need to support our body. And this isn't really the time to aim for a calorific deficit. If you're training for your first 70.3, the focus should be on fitness, it should be on performance. We shouldn't be focusing on starving ourselves, going for a big calorific deficit, because that's going to have a huge impact on our energy levels for our training. Because if we are in a deficit, our body's going to be hungry, it's going to be asking for fuel, and if we're doing this training whilst denying the body the fuel that it needs, that's going to be tricky. Now, as we get closer to race day, as we're going to be knocking out 3-4 hour bike rides maybe, if we're going to be doing these long runs, then we may end up in a calorific deficit accidentally. But I don't want you weighing your food out and going, oh, this is, I need to cut down this, less of this, and getting too obsessive over it. If somebody does want to sort of lose weight as an athlete, the best time to do that is at the end of the season. So it is after your last race of the year, as you go into the off season, you've got a few months to focus on this. Don't overdo your preparation. This is easy to do when you're training for your first 70.3, especially a year out, because burnout is a very real risk. Now, when you're watching this, that may not really be a consideration. You may think, oh, I just want to keep on pushing. I just want to keep going. Now, training for a 70.3 in a year, for most people, it's not a massive challenge. Now, training for a full Ironman in a year is a huge challenge. And you need to be like every week you need to be pushing the limits and just increasing the volume in the hope that you can survive that Ironman. But for an Ironman 70.3, for most people, they probably don't need a whole year to train for it. So we need to be careful about it. Now, if you've got an elastic band and you pull that elastic band tight and then tighter and tighter, and then if you just hold that elastic band when it's almost at maximum tension, what's going to happen to it? It'll snap. Because there's only so long that it can stand being under that level of tension for. The same is true of athletes. Okay, if we go super hard in our training, we're going to be setting ourselves off at a volume and intensity that is unsustainable, and we will end up exhausted and burned out. Some people can be race ready in only 16 weeks, even if they don't do a huge amount of swimming, cycling, or running. Now, it wouldn't be especially fast or pretty, perhaps, but you could probably get round. But the earlier you start your training, the faster you'll be. If somebody has a year to complete their training relative to 16 weeks, I think we all know who's probably going to be faster. But we need to periodize our training to make sure that we hit the targets we need to when we want to. So, preparation phase. We are laying the foundations. This is a gentle increase in volume and intensity. So we start off with our single length of the pool, running for 1 minute, cycling for 30 minutes, and we slowly increase the time that we're running for, the time that we're swimming for, and cycling for. These aren't like big leaps. We may not be focusing on all of them every week, but we are going to be slowly building the volume up because we're starting from a very low point. Start build, but it's going to be quite a gentle build. Big focus on swim technique. We're going to, as long as somebody's confident, do a maximum strength block in the gym. So you spend the first sort of 12 weeks learning how to do the exercise in the gym, slowly building up with high reps and light weights, and then heavier weights, less reps, really get strong. Try to get that all of that strength that we cannot replicate on the bike, hitting the muscles that are going to help us prevent injury, okay? If we've got a year, there's no real good reason not to do a max strength block. If somebody they don't have the confidence to do that, that's fine, we can skip that. But for most people, the chance to get really strong is going to really help us not only with our performance on race day, but also stay injury free. And this should feel very sustainable. A lot of the athletes I coach, they get quite frustrated at this point and say, Simon, I can do so much more. It's like, I know you can do so much more. I'm counting on the fact that you can do so much more. But at this point, we're laying the foundations. We're just making sure that we are sort of learning about our body, how it reacts, basic swim technique. We are building up, building up, building up. Look at the base phase. So we need to build our engine. Now this starts about 6 to 7 months out from race day. So once we're out of our prep phase and we're 6 to 7 months out from our race, then we need to go, okay, this is time to put our foot on the gas. This is time to really accelerate our training. If you start much earlier than 7 months out, again, the risk for burnout really is there. But weekly volume increases, expect to see in the training plan much bigger steps up in volume. The intensity, we're going to up to around 2 sessions a week. In the preparation phase, probably one intensity session a week. Into the base phase, probably two in most cases. Sometimes less, sometimes more. Depends on the athlete, depends on a lot of factors. But we will start including rest weeks. So we have 3 weeks of an increasing intensity and volume, followed by an easy week to recover, and then start building up from there again. And this should still feel sustainable. Not as easy as the preparation phase, but you should feel like, yeah, like I'm enjoying this, like it feels good, but we haven't got the alarm bells ringing. There isn't this red flashing light going, can't keep doing this, can't keep doing this. And we do back off on the strength work here. We drop it to 1 session a week. We go back to lighter weights and we try to maintain that strength that we've established, do more in the way of single leg movements. There's a lot going on there. And then we have our build phase, ramping up to race day. So, 2 to 3 months out from race day, we start our build phase. Start including brick runs, so we start, following all of our rides, long rides with runs to get used to going from that riding to that running. Should be going open water swimming where the temperature allows. I mean, you could start open water swimming in the base phase. If you are training for an event that's like towards the end of the year and you want to get in the water and you want to get used to the open water in May, you can start then. There's no point you can't start too soon, too early with the open water swimming. By the time we get 2 months out from race day, if we can, we really should be in the open water, like every other weekend at a minimum. And this, at this point, should feel unsustainable. So all that time at the start of the year, this is easy, Simon, this is boring, Simon, I can do this. Yeah, I know you can do that. Because when we get to this build phase, this is when I need you. 2 to 3 months out from race day. This is where you show up. This is where you don't miss a single session. This is where you go hard. Because this is where your race day performance comes from. This block here. The prep and the base phase have all been getting you ready for this phase so that you can start hitting these big training weeks and be like, it's easy. Is that what you got? Keep it coming. It's all part of this slow build. Now, it's very easy, everything I just talked you through there, to let 70.3 training become a second job. So strength training, nutrition, injury, intervals, indoor training, managing illness, recovery, logistics, equipment, swim technique, planning your training. Can feel utterly overwhelming. So all these unseen time sinks, obviously planning your training, writing your training plan, working out what it is that you're going to do, how quickly it is that you need to improve everything. Researching the latest training methods, how many sessions of this should I be doing, what intervals should I be doing, trawling YouTube, looking for answers to questions, what is it that I should do? Should I take a rest day or an easy day? How does this piece of equipment work? All of that. Do I need this piece of equipment? And, lots of people, largely very unqualified influencers, will be out there giving you a 20-minute video to answer very simple questions so they get as much money from it as possible. Um, a lot of people buy textbooks on training, start reading up on how to prepare for these events, and they start pouring over their data. Oh, got this much elevation in this ride. I set this PB on this segment on Strava. My heart rate was doing this. My cadence was this. Do I need to change my cadence? Let's find out on YouTube, okay? And you can spend as much time analyzing things and doing research as you can actually training. So if somebody were to buy a training plan, that's a one size fits all approach. And this is a very popular way. In fact, I think this is the most popular way for people to prepare for an event. So, off the shelf plan is delivered via Training Peaks, the ones that I sell. They include swimming, cycling, running, and strength, all of my plans. A lot of plans don't include strength, but I include it standard. There's a free triathlon training guide in there to help you understand how to manage illness, the basics of swim technique. All of these, there's a lot of information in there. But it's very rigid and there's no real support. So if you got questions, sorry, but that's at that price point, you don't really get to sort of get to pick my brains on all those areas. But starts from £108 for a 52-week plan, and it gets cheaper from there on out. Or you got my bespoke coaching, where you get to talk to me daily, data analysis, comments from every workout you upload. Let me do all of that legwork. I write your training plan on a weekly basis, based around you as an individual, and your work, your strengths and your weaknesses, all of that. Catch up calls, unlimited messaging, send me as many messages as you want, text messages, emails, we can have phone calls, catch up calls, but it's £250 a month because it takes up a lot of my time. And then I've got my premium coaching, £400 a month. It's instant workout feedback, all of these little bits extra there. But I'm not going to try and talk you into that. I want to tell you today about the middle ground. Something I just released, coach training plans. So this is the budget-friendly approach because a training plan off the shelf, it's quite basic, it's quite cheap. And a lot of people want a bit more support than that, but they can't afford the £250 a month. Now, there are coaches out there who charge less, but when you consider, somebody of my experience and my qualifications, obviously, if you want to take advantage of that, that normally does come with that price tag. But for a coach training plan, we start with an off-the-shelf training plan. So if you come to me and say, Simon, I want your 52-week 70.3 from scratch coach training plan, I go, great, let me get my training plan, my off-the-shelf training plan, put it in Training Pete's calendar. Now, how does this plan look to you? Oh, well, I can already run marathons, so those runs are far too easy and short. Okay, let me put in some longer and more challenging runs for you. And I've always got the pick, Wednesdays are the busiest day of the week for me. That should be my rest day. Okay, so we move the rest day there. And I take all of this and I edit that plan around the athlete because for me to write a training plan from scratch, it's really quite time consuming. And somebody's paying for my time to write that bespoke training plan. Whereas I realise what it is that most athletes really need is more in the way of face-to-face question and answer, support, analysis, all of this. So we start with the customizing the plan, the existing plan around you as an athlete. And then at the end of each month, we have a catch-up to plan the next month of training. So you can tell me, oh, this went really well. This didn't go so well. I'd like to do more of this. I'm away with work doing this. The in-laws are staying, so I can't do long sessions that weekend. All of these different aspects there. And we also have, as part of that call, a monthly coach session. covering all these different topics around performance, which are getting kitted out. So we have a session where we help you understand which equipment you'll need to take on the challenge. Stroke analysis, send me a video of you swimming, and I will break it down and show you how it is that you can improve. A mobility assessment, so we can see how it is that you move as a person. We can check for tight muscles that you might need to strengthen, might need to stretch out. Sports massage, all of those. Sports science to help you understand the theory behind the training, so you've got that buy-in and you understand why it is that you're doing each session. Day-to-day nutrition, so that is what it is that you should be eating on a day-to-day basis, how to fuel your training. Nice, easy wins. I'm not going to ask you to track your food, but I can sit down with you and help you understand small little wins that we can find within your day-to-day nutrition to help just get these nice little low-hanging fruit, nice little improvements there. Bike maintenance, so helping you understand how to look after and maintain your bike. Sports nutrition, start to create a plan for that race day, for the longer sessions. What is it we're going to eat? When are we going to eat? How are we going to use this? Sort of trial and error there. Session 8 is open water swimming, getting used to how to put on a wetsuit, how to swim around a buoy, how to swim in a pack, how to sight, all of these different areas. Session 9, sports psychology, help you understand how to manage those feelings of stress and anxiety around the race. We're looking at bike setup. So, you look at, what gear ratios you'll be looking to use on the bike, where you're going to have your bottles, basic bits about how to make sure, tires as well, how to make sure that bike is set up in the most efficient way possible for your race. Do a course analysis. I'll sit down with you, look at the maps, the swim, the turn buoys, look at the bike, look at the hills, look at the aid stations, look at the run course, understand how to break it all down. Each course is different, and I want to look at the course for the race that you're doing and help you get ready for that. We do a race planning session where we sit down, right, what are we going to eat? How many grams of carbohydrate are we going to consume? What's our target power going to be? What are we hoping to hold for a pace? To really sort of go through into the weeds and help oh, I'm going to go to this aid station, pick this up, I'm going to eat this, then I'm going to drink that, I'm going to come off the bike, I'm going to ease into it for the first kilometre. So you have an action plan. You're not just turning up one day going, oh, I guess I'll figure this out. And then the days before the event, a race briefing. You can chat to me about updates, about the weather, about things that you are worried about. I can help sort of put your mind at ease and give you a bit of a hype. I can be your hype man for half an hour. And then throwing some added extras. So Training Peaks premium upgrade. So with Training Peaks, you need a premium account to be able to move workouts around and view your progress. And that I cover the cost of that for you because I think it's really important. So throw that in for free. Training Peaks Virtual, you can see this young lady here who is riding on the indoor cycling platform Training Peaks Virtual. Get a free copy of that, so that will save you money on paying for Zwift or Rouvy. Collection of triathlon courses that I've written over the years, so covering nutrition, strength training, swim technique, hill climbing on your bike, riding with clipless pedals, lots of different subjects that are covered there. And I also include my triathlon training guide and Training Peaks for Triathletes mini courses so that you can reference how do I use Training Peaks? What is it that I do outside of the monthly sessions when I can't talk to Simon? So I got this question about how I approach this. So there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of value. So the cost of all of it together. So the 52-week plan on its own, £108. The 52 weeks of Training Peaks Premium is 156. The triathlon courses are 280, and the 13 coach sessions come to 975. So that's £1,519 in total. You get that all for 800 quid. Or $1,100, 950 euros. That is the total cost of the program. That is nearly 50% off. So your training plan, nutrition, strength, swim technique, race planning, and that £15 a week. And there is 0% finance available. Does have to go through an external finance company, but I can help you spread out the cost. But some people go, well, it sounds great, but I've got less than 52 weeks. So there's a typo at the top there. It should be 52 to 16 week plans. I edited this from the Ironman version where the shortest plan is 24. But you got a 51, a 50, a 49, a 48, a 47, and a 46 week plan, all the way down to a 16-week plan that costs £400. Now, the sooner you start, oh, for those of you who are listening to the podcast version, it's £790 for 51 week, £780 for 50 weeks. So it gets £10 cheaper. The sooner you start, the better the value. £400 for 16 weeks as opposed to £800 for 52 weeks. Because of all the free stuff that's included, then that's how the pricing model works. So the sooner you start, the better off you are. But £800 is really good value. But what else does it get you in the sport? Well, to put things in perspective, it'd probably get you one mid-range deep section wheel. Wheels are expensive. If you want a wheel to be aerodynamic, if you want it to be fast, then it's not going to be cheap because those wheels will need to go through stress testing. They're going to need to be carefully manufactured to make sure that when you hit a pothole, they don't buckle. And that's what you get from going to a reputable wheel manufacturer as opposed to getting some random wheels off of the internet. But they are very expensive as a result. Your flights and accommodation, if you're traveling for your race, it'll probably come close to £800 on their own. You probably get 4 months membership at a health club, a fancy gym. About £200 a month is what a lot of them charge these days. Less than 1 month of coaching with a top coach. I know a lot of the best coaches out there, they charge £1 a month. They're really good coaches, but they charge £1. So for less than 1 month with one of these triathlon coaches, you get a whole year with me. Or 2 months of my premium coaching to put that in perspective. So let's weigh up the costs of racing a 70.3. So your entry, £400 minimum, maybe more. If you go to an unofficial event, if it's a non-Ironman branded one, you might be able to get it for less. But £400 is generally what they start at these days. A bike, £700 plus. Again, less if you get a second hand. Your wetsuit these days look about £400 for a nice swimming wetsuit. Don't just go for a really cheap one you get from the beach or a diving wetsuit. They're going to be very inflexible in the shoulders. Pool fees, I've based that on £714, based that on 2 swims costing £7 each a week for 52 weeks. All your clothing, all your shoes, bike components, power meter, GPS watch, all of this. Some people, it's easy to spend 10 grand. Again, those are the people who have 10 grand to spend on this as a journey. But yeah, with everything that's involved with the sport, this could, if you are one of these people who think, oh, well, I'm going to do it properly. I'm going to get this, £7 grand bike. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do all this. That's less than 10% of the yearly cost. But what are the objections that people have to this? Well, they say, "Oh, I'm not good enough. I don't want to waste Simon's time. I'm just starting out." Well, that's everyone has to start somewhere. It's not that anybody goes, "Oh, I don't want to waste my driving instructor's time because I don't know how to drive." Not how it works. Same with triathlon coaching. We all start somewhere, and this plan is written for people who are right at the bottom of the rung. Now, if you're watching this and you think, well, yeah, but I'm already pretty good, then I could move you on to my next level program, my step up to 70.3 program. But the one that I'm talking through, the 70.3 from scratch program, no assumptions made, no stupid questions. You're not going to be embarrassing yourself. You're not going to be wasting my time. All you need to do is be able to run 1 minute, swim a length of the pool, and be able to ride a bike for 30 minutes. I think most people probably capable of that if they put their mind to it. Okay, so this plan is written for people like you. People say, I want to do it myself. They let their ego take over. It's a really big roll of the dice, this, because you're investing a lot of money and a lot of time into this journey. And this is the group most likely to fail to finish their event because they let their ego get in the way. And they think, I want to do it myself. I want to figure it all out. And I can see the appeal in that, but you are very likely to pick up an injury doing this. And this is the group, because they're most likely to fail to finish. Imagine if you've hyped up everybody in your social circle, in your workplace, you talked about this event, doing all this training, spending all this money. And you have to go back to work, or you have to go back down, to sort of see your friends down the pub and tell them, say, oh, how'd the race go? oh yeah, I didn't finish because they thought they want to do it themselves. They know everything. They can figure it all out. Um, and it's avoidable. Somebody just reaches out for help. I know some people find it hard to ask for help, but with something as complex as this, nobody's ever going to think, oh, what a wuss. Like, this is a 70.3. It's not just a half marathon. Okay, if somebody said, oh, I hired a coach to help me do my first 10K, they might be a bit like, feels a bit excessive that. This is a half Ironman. And coaching, I like to think of it as triathlon insurance. If you work with a coach, if you work with me, your chances of finishing really will skyrocket. They're really going to jump up. And that's going to almost guarantee your finish. Now, I can never guarantee a finish. That would be a really foolish thing for me to promise because there are so many things that can go wrong in the day. Another competitor could crash into you. It could end up that you that you hit like a big pothole in the road that you couldn't possibly see. It could be that your stomach just completely rebels on you on the day. There are all these things that can happen. I can never guarantee anything, but if you're spending all this time and all this money on this goal by hiring me to help you. That's almost insurance. Of course, insurance never pays. It doesn't always pay out in the same way that I can never guarantee that you'll be able to finish the race. But it does almost guarantee it's going to put you in a far stronger position. So I recommend you sign up today. We get started so you can learn more and you can purchase by clicking on coach training plans below this webinar. You can email me at simon@phasontriathlon. You can book a free call either by going into there's a sales page for each of the coach training plans, tells you exactly what you get, how many coach sessions you get, because that varies on the price point, what the coach sessions are. And at the bottom, there is a button, book a call. Or you can just email me and say, hey Simon, can we organise a 15-minute chat about your programs? But I'm also going to have links to my training plans and my bespoke coaching below this webinar so you can learn more about those. If you've got the money and you think, you know what, I need the extra help, I need the bespoke coaching, I want somebody to talk to every day, I've got a lot of questions, let's go for that. We can do that. But equally, if you think, I like Simon, I really like what he's saying, I think it's great, but I can't justify that. But his training plans, I think I might want some of those. Have a look down there, you can browse my training plans. And for making it all the way to the end of the webinar, I'm going to offer you 10% off of this program with the code IRONMAN10. Brings it down to less than £14 a week for all of that support in your training. Okay, that's over 50% off the value of getting them all individually. So, thank you for staying with me. Thank you for listening. I really hope that you found it useful. I hope there's a lot of value in it. Of course, I hope to hear from you if you're looking to work with me to help you achieve your goals. But even if you're not, subscribe to my podcast, the Age Group Triathlon podcast. There's loads of information in there. You should find it really helpful. And I hope to see you all very soon, maybe on a race course somewhere. Take care.